Hello everyone, this is Matty's Masquerades. I am here to talk about a company that not a lot of people, that a lot of people know, but a lot of people don't like in the anime industry. Yep, it's them, 4Kids Entertainment. Now, before we begin this panel, I want to say, I will remain completely unbiased about 4Kids and their anime practices during this panel. I will only discuss any opinions if it is shared by any of the higher-ups or affected anything within the company itself. So if you want to hear me ramble about how terrible the One Piece dub was, turn off the panel right now. So anyway, the company's history goes all the way back to 1970. They were known as Leisure Concepts. But it was in the early 90s when Alfred Arcon and Norman J. Groensfeld joined it, and they had become 4Kids, and their flagship property at the time was Cabbage Patch Kids, something that they had retained throughout pretty much their entire life. Their actual first television production was a somewhat obscure karate-type show known as WMAC Masters. It aired in syndication and aired very briefly, and it did air very briefly on the Fox box, but we'll get to that later. The one that we probably know them best for is Pokemon, which they had a partnership with Nintendo at the time, and Nintendo had licensed the Pokemon anime to them. 4Kids themselves knew that they were taking on a risk, because the thing that the Pokemon anime had been best known for was causing all those seizures back in 1997 with the Electric Soldier Porygon episode. And yet, that was what made them filthy rich. Pokemon was airing on Kids WB, was airing in syndication first, then it was picked up by Kids WB, which also aired, of course, Yu-Gi-Oh! And a co-production they had with Korea known as Cubics, Robots for Everyone. They also had dubbed something called Tama and Friends, but that was only airing in syndication. Following the sale of most of Fox's kids' assets to the Walt Disney Company, the Fox Network put up their programming for bid. And in the end, the winners were, of course, 4Kids, and that's where we got the Fox box. Their original lineup was the acquired show Stargate Infinity from what was then known as Deke, as well as the dubs of Kirby Right Back At Ya, Kirby Ultimate Muscle Fighting Foodons, and the dub of a tokusatsu production known as Ultraman Tiga. Oh, and also, while we're on the subject of Ultraman Tiga, small item of note, that was where the one known as Bella Hudson, also known as Erica Schroeder, actually got her start. She did the voice of Reina Yamanase, and her quote-unquote replacement, Megumi, Megan Hollingshead, the one that she quote-unquote replaced several times, was Megumi Aruma in that show. When Megan had moved out of New York later that year, Erica took over most of her roles, including Mai on Yu-Gi-Oh! And Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny on Pokemon. So now, I'm one of the few people who doesn't really see 4Kids exclusively as an anime company, but as a children's entertainment company. Hence the name 4Kids. So the Fox box lasted on the Fox network, also introducing one of their original creations, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2003 series. And then next year the dubs of Shaman King and Sonic X premiered, and something from France called Funky Cops. But it was Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! That were pretty much carrying 4Kids throughout these times. But then in 2004, here came the inevitable elephant in the room, One Piece. So, I did a little research on this, and according to Mark Kirk, 4Kids never even wanted to dub One Piece. Toei had actually just kind of handed it to them while they, as part of their deal after they had actually helped to produce the second season of Ultimate Muscle, as well as them wanting to dub Ojamajo Doremi, or Magical Do-Re-Mi as they call it, but they had watched very little of it at the time. Because of that, they pretty much just had to do whatever they could until they could legally drop the license, otherwise they'd end up owing Toei lots and lots of money. But, contrary to popular belief, that is not what put 4Kids in their financial financial hole. It actually happened in late 2005, early 2006. Starting in 2001, Nintendo, who hadn't realized what a big hit Pokemon was going to become, had created a subsidiary known then as Pokemon USA, now the Pokemon Company International. And but they could not get the license to the anime yet. They were able to get the trading card game from Wizards of the Coast, but 4Kids' contract lasted till the end of 2005. If Nintendo were to yank the rights away from 4Kids then, they'd end up owing 4Kids a lot of termination fees. So, then when they took Pokemon away, that's when 4Kids slowly started to chip away at their profits. So, wanting a Pokemon-esque property that they owned the rights to completely, they bought the rights to a Danish card game, Lock, Stock, and Barrel. This one is chaotic. I have very little opinion of chaotic. I didn't get to see it much. But 4Kids basically did everything else from scratch. They created the cartoon, the physical card game, the online card game, and apparently they actually kind of broke some new ground with this, as well as creating the first cartoon to go from Flash to cell animation. So, but every quarter, 4Kids was losing less and less money, and chaotic sales were growing, and just when they were about to hit their break-even point, bam! That's when the economic recession of 2008 and 2009 hit, and they lost about half their cash reserves. Contrary to popular belief, One Piece had very, very little to do with that. It probably chipped away at their resources, but the key word there is chipping away. So, with that disaster out of their way and their reserves starting to run dry, the company was in a little bit of financial trouble. However, despite this, they had ended up buying the rights to the Kids WB block, which was also going under, and that's how the CW4Kids started. They decided to shift their focus over to anime, and yes, taking inspiration from a certain other anime block called Toonami, they created Toonsai. They were able to air an edited version of Dragon Ball Z Kai, and they'd made so many other business deals too, because I remember they were airing Magi Nation, which had aired on Kids WB previously and was owned by what was then called Cookie Jar. And they were about to also get Blue Dragon. Now these isn't stuff they were dubbing. This was stuff that they only owned airing rights to this. There was Blue Dragon and also Monsuno and a few other shows. And once again, it felt like they were on the road to success. And then they were just hit again. This time, it involved the Yu-Gi-Oh license. TV Tokyo and Nihon Ad Systems had sued them, and many companies were sort of backing out from them, including Funimation, Cookie Jar, Viz, and A&E, which were their new home video distributors. They didn't want anything to do with that, and that's why Dragon Ball Z Kai and Magi Nation kind of ended in a endless loop of reruns, and they barely had anything new to show. They had to keep dubbing Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and Zexal, though. Oh, wanted to get into that, too. The reason GX... Apparently, it was partly Konami's fault that GX and 5Ds didn't end the way they should have. They wanted 4Kids to rush over and start doing the next series to promote the Synchro and XZ monsters that had come out. But, anyway, Bang Zoom Entertainment was so confident 4Kids was going to lose the case that they produced their own dub of Zexal illegally. This kind of handed the case over to 4Kids, and they ended up winning a bit of money in the case, but unfortunately their business practices were hurt beyond repair, so they ended up auctioning off their block. The buyers were, and the winner of the block was Saban, and it was Saban Brands that took the block and made it into the Vortex. They also bought the broadcast rights to Dragon Ball Z Kai, as well as Sonic X and Cubix. Cubix technically remains a part of Hasbro, but they haven't done much else with it. And Sonic X, they just let the rights expire and revert back to TMS. 4Kids themselves they made them reverted to 4 licensing. They don't work in TV anymore. They now, I think it's something about sports and other licensing and relevance to products. And there you have it. The true history of 4Kids Entertainment. No exaggerated lies. I'm Matty's Masquerades, and I hope you're enjoying Cosplay Day Off. See you later.